This is Back to the Barber, where scalp conditions are met and maintained. It's your host, AQBS, but most importantly, a fellow client. Hope all is well today, gents. Today's primary topic is the 2 insidious myths of balding, seconded by other relevant information and commentary. So let's get started. Well, this is probably the first video that you're going to see of mine. And with that stated, you should know that this is probably the 60th or 70th actual video that I've created on this channel. However, I've been holding off putting the videos up until you guys can really see the difference between the start and the finish of pretty much my natty restoration. So there will be another video that I will talk about myself and my journey. But on this particular one, we're going to jump right into the topic. And from here, this pretty much settles the score. And I guess fundamentally gives you an idea of my belief systems and facts and theories when it comes to what you guys refer to as male pattern balding, what science calls androgenetic alopecia, what I refer to as acute follicle stress. Now, the 2 insidious myths of balding, to me, is one of the most important topics that we can talk about when it comes to this channel. Thus, for weeks and weeks and weeks, and even longer, to be honest with you, probably months, I really thought about what is the first video that I should do. What is the most important topic that I can start with? At this time, it has been over a year and a half of attempting to restore my scalp from Norwood 7 Plus through having a full restoration, and I am pretty close. However, I still have a lot of, let's just say, hair to go into the terminal stage. Thus, these first videos will be mostly audio only, and then we'll take it from the videos. I have plenty of them. You'll see a lot on this channel, but let's just stick to the topic. The 2 insidious myths of balding. What are they? The first myth is it is inevitable. The second myth, it is irreversible. These 2 myths, to me, causes the most harm that can ever be caused when it comes to male pattern balding, either halting hair loss or restoring it. Why? Because these 2 myths that men believe, that we're taught, that's all over blogs and websites and all over even scientific journals and products, man, especially the products, it's all over the products. And even whole industries are built around these 2 myths. The first myth of it being inevitable is literally in the scientific name androgenetic alopecia. Now, when you think of androgenetic alopecia, just the word genetic will give you an idea, a thought that it is nothing that you can do for genetics. If you're listening right now and you're 5'11" or you're 6'1" or even 5'8", you say that's genetic. If you have blonde hair or red hair or brown hair or almost black hair, right? You will say that's genetic. Whether you look like you're East Indian, or rather you look like you're from Norway, or rather you look like you're from Nigeria, or rather you look like you're from Montana, right? Whether you look like you're from Mexico, whether you look like you're from Cuba, China, or whether you look like you're from Russia, you accept that because you probably look, for the most part, like the people that you're surrounded by. And we're okay with that. But we know and we think and we feel that it's genetic because science says that's genetic. Your phenotype is genetic. Your height is genetic. Your eye color is genetic. And then we go to this thing called androgenetic alopecia. It's basically saying just from that, look, your androgens genetically create alopecia. And to simplify that is basically you have a sensitivity toward androgens, therefore you are genetically inclined to go bald. Now, this is something that many of us truly believe. We buy products based on this belief system that it is inevitable. And what do I mean by that? Genetics means it is inevitable that you are your height, inevitable that you are your race, inevitable that you have the pigment you have, right? The intelligence you have, kind of. So they're saying the same thing when it comes to hair loss. Why do I call it insidious? Because it slowly programs you to actually do the opposite of what you need to do when it comes to either halting hair loss or regrowing it. You simply believe that when you see your hairline moving back at 25 years old, that you are having a mature hairline. Well, here's news for you. When you stop growing is when your hairline is supposed to stop moving. I'm going to say that again. When you stop physically growing as height-wise, is when your hairline should stop moving. This is why you see men 50, 60, 70 years old and their hair may not be as thick as far as volume is concerned, but their hairlines be pretty nice. A lot of these guys who don't have quote unquote male pattern balding or alopecia or androgenetic alopecia. Now, the thing about this myth is it creates and has created whole industries. And what do I mean by whole industries? What I'm saying is that the entire male pattern balding industry is made around the fact that you are going to go genetically bald, so you need a hair transplant, because those hairs on the top of your head are genetically programmed to leave. In other words, you are basically patching or trying to fix what they refer to as final form. What is final form? Final form is, you kind of see on cartoons and anime where this creature is simple in the beginning or young in the beginning, and as it evolves it powers up and it becomes more complex. Well, they're saying that, you're 22 years old, pretty much not even, barely stopped growing at this point, not even touched your manhood, and your hair or your scalp decides that the best, or nature I should say, decides that you should be bald. And I'm gonna stop and I want you to think about that for a second, because nature makes things appear to be stronger, makes things appear to be more with more vigor, right? To be more masculine when you are masculine. It is not going to make you appear older or weaker. That's nature. Now, even if you will have a disagreement about that, say you say, well, being bald makes you look more assertive. Well, do you really think that? Because a lion doesn't look more assertive when it's bald. The mane makes the lion. And when you have the iguanas and lizards that can kind of flap open these things around their necks, they look more aggressive. Right? Now, you take these animals that have these appendages and furs and these different things that make them look bigger, and you take those things off. All animals puff up to appear bigger. Hair doesn't do that. Now, there's a lot more to this, but the point I'm making is this. It's not natural in a sense that it is an evolved state or it is final form for you. It is actually a symptom of a greater problem you're having within, which is an imbalance or deficiency. It is not Mother Nature. It is unnatural, just like disease. Now you say disease is natural. Is it? Well, why are we trying to get rid of it? Disease is the state of imbalance, or something is wrong, right? Male pattern balding is no different. It is not final form. It is not due to anything except for the fact that your internal body has issues and is manifesting in your scalp. Now, with that stated, it is so insidious to say that it is inevitable, because men, when they start seeing the signs of thinning, and you see that your father was bald, you say, well, it's just, it's something I got to deal with. And if you see that your grandfather's bald, it's just something I got to deal with. Because you're thinking that it is inevitable anyway, so why even bother? And when you see that you're thinning at the temple or the crowns, you say, well, I'm just maturing. When all receding, all thinning, all balding is male pattern balding. When you stop growing in height is when your skull shape doesn't change much after that, and you should be right there where you are. And when you are 70 years old, you should have that same lining, perhaps thinner, right? But there's no way that you should have the scalp of a 70-year-old man when you are 27, 37, or even 47. That's a fact. It is also insidious because we have to say that it is inevitable. So what we believe that we're trying to, let's just say, make ourselves look better, right? When we have androgenetic alopecia, not understanding that it is something that is a problem with major organs, as follicles are organs, right? And instead of looking at it from a health perspective, we look at it from a final form perspective, because that's what we're taught. Now, with that stated, whole industries are built, because the hair transplant industry, which is not a bad industry, by the way, they are built on the fact that you're going to lose your hair on the top, genetically programmed, coded, and we're going to take from the sides and put on the top. Now, there are several problems with that. The biggest problem is it doesn't quite work out that way. The second biggest problem is that we're given the wrong impression, so we don't, let's just say, we don't patch it or fix it while it's occurring. This myth of it being inevitable also doesn't allow us to see it from what it is, which is a problem with either our gut, more than likely, or our glands, or our prostate, and other different things that are causing some sort of imbalance in our body, and it's manifesting in our hair. Because we view it as its final form and it's inevitable because someone else has it in the family, we do not view it as a health concern. We view it as cosmetic in nature, and that is false. If you're listening to me, just understand the losing of hair on the scalp is the losing of hair within the body. And if you think you only have hair on your scalp, then you are mistaken. But I'm going to help you. Now, the other piece of that is we are trying to, things such as the SMP tattoo deals with once things have gotten out of hand. When we start doing things like hair systems that are actually they look very good aesthetically, but they don't fix the problem of actually balding, number one. And number two, they don't really take care of what caused us to bald in the first place. So all these things are covers. We're either ignoring the problem, the root cause, or we're covering it, or we're attempting to extend what we have, not realizing that eventually, the less hair we have, the more the problem is going to intensify or magnify. Now, the other thing that is very insidious about it being inevitable is that we don't connect it with our overall health, and we also don't catch it in time. We could see that we have a problem in the family with balding or hair loss. That would tell us, when we view it from the perspective of, look, it doesn't have to happen to me. So here's the thing that you want to look at it from. Look at it as if you need these conditions for it to manifest. That's the genetic component. It is not genetic as in you should be 6'2", right? And you will get to 6'2" when you look at your dad. He's 6'2", and your mom is 5'11". So I'll probably get 6'2", right? Now, with that stated, are these conditions met? Am I having a nutrient deficiency? Yes. Am I having some sort of allergic reaction to things that I don't supposed to consume, such as dairy, wheat, whatever, right? Yes. Am I in my right? Do I take multivitamins and do I work out? No. Do I eat healthy? Do I drink alcohol? All these things, conditions are met. Yes, you will start receding. Now, if you took your same person, a twin, and you were to say, okay, this twin is not going to meet those conditions. He or she, or let's just say he, is going to watch his diet. He is going to avoid whatever causes inflammation in the body. He is going to make sure his blood has the right amount of vitamins and minerals. He's going to make sure he's not nutrient deficiency in his blood. He's going to make sure his food has the right amount of minerals and vitamins. He's taking supplements. He's working out. He will not bald like his twin will, because remember, it's conditions. Therefore, to call it inevitable is to state out loud that it is not condition based, and it is condition based. How do I know? Because I am reversing my hair loss by changing the conditions of my scalp. And we'll get to those things in a different video. The second myth is it is irreversible, which I mentioned briefly. I proved that it was a myth and false the first 3 months of attempting to restore my hair loss after more than a decade of balding. And what I mean by balding is not receding, not thinning, but Norwood 7+. What do I mean by Norwood 7+? I'll tell you. No hair on the top, no villus hairs, hair even on the sides have moved back, and you're starting to even get thinning in the eyebrow. That's what I mean by Norwood 7. Not many men go that deep into balding, right? It is the extreme severe version of it, and that's what I had starting at the age of, I got my first itch in the top of my head at 19 years old. And I was like, uh-oh. I knew it then. By the time I was 26, 27, I was shaving it pretty low. By the time I was 28, it was done. 29, it was done. So I did not go into my 30s with any hair on the top of my head. I went into my 30s at Norwood 7. And by the time I was in my mid 20s, 25, 26 years old, I was already having a low type of haircut for the most part, because my hair was thinning that bad. So imagine it. Okay. Some of you are worse than that. When you start balding in high school, I didn't do that. I started balding visibly, line moving back, thinning in college. Okay. By the time, again, late 20s, it was done. Now, why do I say that it is not irreversible? Because I've been reversing my hair loss, and it's been over a decade since it's been that way. So that tells me that it's condition based. It is not program based, because if it was cold, and I know that for several different reasons, by the way, but I can tell you this: when your scalp is coded or programmed to grow hair, if the conditions are correct, then you will regrow hair. Now I'm going to let you hear this phrase I've created early on a year or so back, and it's this: scalp conditions must be met and maintained, and time considerations must be kept to secure gains. That phrase pretty much tells you exactly what's going on when it comes to what you all refer to as androgenetic alopecia. I think that is not a correct term for what we go through. I truly believe it is acute follicle stress, and I'll prove it in later videos. But this second insidious myth of it being irreversible is false. As a matter of fact, the human ingenuity products and lab-based solutions a lot of times will tell you that it is false, because in that case you would have a head that is almost like slick bald like mine was, and you can begin to grow back hair using DHT inhibitors, internal or sometimes topical, along with vacilators and what I call stimulant boosters that are FDA approved. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. These things tell you that you could reverse as the hair miniaturizes. It becomes harder, obviously, when the villus hairs no longer appear, but it is not impossible. And for it to be reversible tells you that the first myth is false too, because how can I reverse something that is inevitable, that I can't stop from happening, that is genetic? Consider this: you're 6'1" now, right? You're not ever worried about becoming 5'4". With that stated, if you're not worried about being 5'4", it's the same thing should be when it comes to hair loss. If it was irreversible, then I would not be able to take a decade-old balding and start to regrow hair. That's impossible. As a matter of fact, it's also impossible to cure some sort of genetic disposition, a true genetic disposition. I believe that balding, the sensitivity toward balding is correct. It's genetic. But as far as balding as a final form, as a disposition, like your eye color or height, is very false, extremely false. I've already proven it, and I'm not the only one. So it is extremely insidious to even consider that it is not irreversible. Here's also why. If you don't think that it is irreversible, or you think that it is irreversible, then you don't do anything about it. You wait. You don't patch it. You don't figure out what's going on with it. You don't figure out what happened to you internally. You don't figure out that you have gut issues. You don't figure out that you have inflammation. You don't figure out that you have almost like a follicle infection. You don't figure these things out. You don't figure out that you have a pathogen outbreak or a yeast outbreak, or your scalp biome is off base. You don't figure these things out because you truly believe that it's irreversible. There's nothing you can do about it. And you believe it's irreversible because you think it's inevitable, and you think it's inevitable because you think that it's what? Genetic. All these things have made men confused, and it's false. So let me tell you this. This channel, Back to the Barber, is going to help you, assist you into understanding why these two myths are not only insidious, but they're so far from the truth, it's pitiful. Now, I don't believe that it is conspiracy as much as I believe that people are becoming more aware of opportunities, more health related opportunities. We understand the body more, and these are one of these things that were a myth because we didn't quite understand what was occurring, but now we do. With that stated, gents, you can reverse your hair loss, and you can do it naturally. It takes quite a time. Time considerations must be kept, but it is definitely not impossible. I'm doing it myself, and I will be proving these things to you all. So do not believe these two insidious myths. They are inherently false, and they disprove each other. Because once you begin to reverse your hair, then consider this: you never reversed your height. Therefore, to call it inevitable or genetic is false too. So that's my video for today. Hopefully something here has helped you to halt hair loss and or restore it. If so, hit the like or subscribe. If not, give another video a chance. I'm pretty sure you'll find something interesting. But if I can do it, you all can do it too. Let's get you back to the barber.